With everything going on this season, Ferrari has somehow gone under the radar, at least on our channel. Red Bull's brilliance, Aston Martin's unbelievable growth, and Mercedes' implosion have taken all the headlines since the opening race in Bahrain. So with the second race of the season this weekend, we thought it's time to bring some positivity to all you Ferrari fans, and tell you about how the planned upgrades for Jeddah mean Ferrari will be competitive this season. So I might have said this video is going to be about some Ferrari positivity, but this is Ferrari we're talking about. So I'm going to start with the team's most recent mini catastrophe, Charles Leclerc's grid penalty. That's right, just 2 races into the season, the Ferrari engine is already causing the team problems. The Monegasque driver will have at least a 10-place drop as a result of his retirement from the season opening race in Bahrain. Team principal Frédéric Vasseur said on Wednesday that Leclerc's car had 2 problems with the electronics control unit, or ECU, on race day in Bahrain. As drivers are restricted to 2 ECUs for a season, Leclerc will be penalised for going over his allocation. Vasseur said that the ECU had a problem when the car was started on race morning in Bahrain, and that Leclerc retired with a problem in the replacement part. It is something we've never experienced in the past, and I hope now it's under control, Vasseur said. But unfortunately, we'll have to take the penalty in Jeddah because we only have a pool of 2 ECUs for the season. You didn't really think that a new team boss was instantly going to solve all of Ferrari's problems, did you? The only team that was worse for electronic reliability last season was Alpine with their Renault engine. The Ferrari engine, specifically in the Ferrari car, was really unreliable. It was so bad that they had to turn their engine down after the summer break to stop it breaking down even more than they did. It's too early to tell if this was a one-off issue or if it's indicative of things to come, but if Ferrari do have engine problems again this year, Charles Leclerc and Carlos Sainz will be furious because this should have been fixed in the back end of last year. Alright, that's the Ferrari clown fiesta out of the way. I just can't believe it happened so soon this year. Maybe they're just getting it out of their system. Let's move on to some positivity now and talk about Jeddah and the Ferrari upgrades that are coming. Ferrari comfortably occupied the second row of the grid in Bahrain. They were so comfortable that Charles Leclerc didn't even bother to put in a second fast lap in Q3. That tells you what Ferrari thought of Mercedes' 1-lap pace. But if Ferrari's 1-lap pace was encouraging, its race pace was less than impressive, as it struggled to match Red Bull and even came under threat from Aston Martin. If Lance Stroll hadn't been driving with 2 broken hands and a broken toe, he might have had the speed to follow Fernando Alonso through the field. Sainz's tyres were absolutely wrecked by the end of the race because of the defensive work he had to do to try and keep Alonso at bay. Clearly, Ferrari had work to do, but Bahrain made their problems worse. The track surface there is the oldest on the calendar, and it eats tyres for breakfast due to how abrasive it is. If you have a lack of downforce in Bahrain, you're gonna really struggle. That's what happened with Ferrari and also Mercedes. Fortunately for the Tifosi, their new boss is confident they can make some huge improvements this year. Speaking to the press ahead of this weekend's Saudi Arabian Grand Prix, Vasseur is confident that Ferrari has mega room for improvement with its current package because it didn't get the car balance right in Bahrain. We struggled a bit with the balance over the weekend. It means that we have mega room for improvements on this path with our package, he explained. With what we had in Bahrain, I think we had a lot of room for improvement in terms of drivability. The most important is to stay focused on the current situation, to try to get the best from what we have today. Ferrari weren't the only team struggling with setup in Bahrain. Mercedes had a terrible day on the Friday of pre-season practice when they got their setup all wrong. Even on the race weekend, there were problems. Look at McLaren, for example. There's no way their car can actually be that bad. They just got their setup horribly wrong. Lando Norris ended up just driving test laps while the race was on to get more data on car setup. Vasseur went on to say its high degradation was a result of Bahrain's notoriously rough tarmac, combined with his drivers trying to make up for an inherent lack of performance, with Sainz cooking the tyres trying to keep Alonso behind. Part of the explanation is coming from Bahrain, because it's very aggressive and probably this is increasing all the parameters, Vasseur said. And it's true also that if you have a lack of pace, you have to push more to stay into the maximum of your pace, and you're damaging more everything. It means that I would be much more focused on the pure performance and pure potential than something else. Vasseur's belief that Jeddah will be a better fit for the SF23 comes from the fact that it places more of an emphasis on straight-line speed, which Ferrari has in abundance this year over Bahrain, while also considerably less demanding when it comes to tyre wear. With Ferrari bringing updates to Saudi Arabia, Vasseur expects the team to make a step forward on Jeddah's street layout. For sure, we can't be satisfied with the situation, and I want to do a step forward. The characteristics of Jeddah are completely different compared to the previous one in Bahrain in terms of grip, in terms of rugosity, layout of the track, and so it's a completely different story, he added. Already, it will suit a little bit more to what we have today, and then we'll also bring some updates to Jeddah, and I hope that will do a step forward. We won't know for sure what they're updating for Saudi Arabia until we see the car on track on Friday. Believe me, I've been trying to find out, but no one seems to know anything yet. With Jeddah favouring cars with less drag, it could be a new rear wing with less surface area, which would help the Ferrari's top speed at one of the faster circuits of the season. Last year, it was Red Bull who was topping the speed charts, but this year, it looks like Ferrari may have been able to claim to have the fastest engine on the circuit. During Q3 in Bahrain, both Ferraris carried an extra 1 mile an hour down the main straight over Max Verstappen and Sergio Perez, and an additional 1.9 miles an hour for shorter blast between turns 10 and 11. The teams are currently under an engine freeze, which means they can't develop engine upgrades that improve performance. You might be wondering how Ferrari improved their engine in the off-season then, but let me explain. They were allowed to work on reliability upgrades. Ferrari had to run their engine at below optimum power levels last season, restricting how much work the turbo in particular was doing to stop it overheating and at times literally setting on fire. By doing that, they made the engine last longer, but lowered its power output. By working on the reliability over the winter, they've been able to turn their engine up to deliver more power for the drivers. Clearly, they didn't work hard enough on electrical reliability though. The upgraded Ferrari engine has led Red Bull's Helmut Marko to conclude that Ferrari now has the best performing power unit on the grid, while Mercedes might have slipped to third after its 2014 to 2020 dominance over the 1.6-litre turbo hybrid era. Marko said, "We don't have exact power unit figures, but based on various comparisons and information, we generally assume that Ferrari is the most powerful engine. Then comes Honda, and then Mercedes is pretty much on a par. Renault brings up the rear." Earlier this week, we spoke about how Fernando Alonso was using the electrical power of his Mercedes engine in a completely different way to the rest of the drivers with that engine, which was giving him a big advantage over his competitors. If we had access to engine output data, it would be interesting to see how Marko's engine rankings matches up with the real world, and how the drivers use each engine. Unfortunately, we don't have that though, so all we can do is go off what we can see and what people in the know, like Marko, say. The Ferrari engine leapfrogging Red Bull this season is a great sign for the Scuderia. Like Vasseur said, the team have loads of space to grow this year, and considering Red Bull's budget cap breach punishment is now in effect, Ferrari should be able to gain ground on them. The important thing is going to be how quickly they can do it. If Red Bull win 10 more races before Ferrari can compete, then the season will already be over. But if Ferrari can make the improvements quickly, then they could still be in the title fight. Imola will be the big one. The first European race of the season always features the first big upgrades of the season, and isn't until the 21st of May, giving Ferrari loads of time to get themselves sorted. They could shock all of us and fight for a race win in Jeddah, but if they can find any kind of improvement this weekend, then that should be counted as a success. How mad do you think Charles Leclerc is about the grid penalty? Will Carlos Sainz be able to challenge for a podium this weekend? Let us know what you think will happen in the comments down below, and don't forget to subscribe to stay up to date with everything happening in the paddock. Until next time, drive safe and bye for now.